Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. I'm going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. In today's video, this will be taking us to around the 23rd of April, so we're going to go into the second half of the month, with this update. Going to start off talking about the competition though, because we are into the second half of the competition now. We're past the halfway point, and we are giving away this wonderful prize. It's the night fishing moon phase clock. We've teamed up with metcheck.co.uk weather instrumentation. You find a link to metcheck.co.uk weather instrumentation on the links page. So we're giving away this fantastic prize. It's worth £39.50. That's headline number, but it is a bespoke item as well. So you can have it personalised with your name or a loved one's name, a house name, whatever you want, engraved onto the clock, and that means that the clock is actually worth £50. So it's a very expensive prize that we're giving away actually this year. This is the most expensive prize that we've given away, I believe, over the past 4 years when we've been doing these competitions. So it covers the full phase of the lunar cycle, from the new moon through to the full moon, and then back to the waning part of the lunar cycle again. So it'll show you the waxing and waning part of the cycle. You keep time with the lunar cycle as you go along. It's important for night fishing because certain fish bite with different phases of the lunar cycle, and there's also a theory that the weather itself can be influenced by the moon, by the lunar cycle. So if you don't, I don't know much about it, but if you do notice, if you win this clock and you notice any changes consistently occurring with the changes of the moon, do let me know. Email me and tell me that you've observed some changes. I know Terry Scully, our long-range forecasting guru, uses lunar cycles and the moon as part of his methodology to do his long-range forecasting. So do let me know if you win this clock and you notice any apparent changes that are occurring with the weather and coinciding with the changes to the moon. Now, to win this lunar moon phase clock, all you have to do is email your name and address to gazweathervids@gmail.com. That's all you have to do. Don't do anything else at all. Emailing your name and address to gazweathervids@gmail.com will place you automatically into the prize draw. And in just a few days now, on Sunday, Easter Sunday, one name is going to be drawn out of the bag at random. The name that's drawn out of the bag will be our winner, and you'll be contacted by myself and by MetCheck to confirm your details, and also, of course, to confirm what name you would like putting into your clock. Because if you don't want it for yourself, you can actually use this for a present for somebody. It could work as a birthday present, maybe even, dare I say it, your very first Christmas present, courtesy of Gazweathervids and metcheck.co.uk. So, got to be in it to win it. Email your name and address to gazweathervids@gmail.com. You'll go into the prize draw, and one name will be drawn out of bag to random on Easter Sunday, around 7 o'clock in the evening, in a video. And that person will be our winner. And good luck to everybody. Right, let's get on with the video. I'm going to start off with the Arctic oscillation first. We all talked about this yesterday. Just to tell you, the Arctic oscillation is still being forecast to go really quite negative through the second half of April. So this is the AO observed and forecast chart. The black line here tells us where the Arctic oscillation has been. Red line is where the GFS ensemble is forecasting the Arctic oscillation to go. Remember, this is just index, that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere over the North Pole. It's not driving anything. So when the Arctic oscillation is positive, you've generally got low pressure over the pole, and you'll have enhanced westerlies through the Atlantic. When the Arctic oscillation is negative, you generally have high pressure over the pole, you'll weaken the westerlies, and you'll probably push cool air out of the pole down into the mid-latitudes. For most of the winter, Arctic oscillation, as I've been explaining in videos recently, has been in positive territory, although we did go negative for a short period through the early part of February. But overall, it was a positive AO winter. Now we are seeing quite strong negativity being forecast of the Arctic oscillation from the GFS ensemble. So initially we're just hovering around neutral, around there. But in the second half month, that 16th of April, just there, Easter Sunday, when we're doing our prize draw, of course. So 16th of April is just there. And after that, that's when all those negative Arctic oscillation ensemble members are showing up. They really are going very negative indeed, some of these going down to around -2 on the index of just there. And that's really quite a plunge in the Arctic oscillation. Now, what happens beyond that is going to be quite interesting, because I've been explaining in the videos recently, Arctic oscillation and its counterpart, the North Atlantic oscillation, they tend to move in blocks of around 3 or 4 months. We've had about 4 months of positive Arctic oscillation. Is this the start of a switch to 3-4 months of a negative Arctic oscillation with blocking? If it is, it's not going to be terribly good news for the latter part of the spring and the early part of the summer. But, of course, where that blocking sits is always the critical factor, because it doesn't necessarily mean that we'll be setting up a cold trough underneath it directly over the UK. That cold trough might set up, say, over Russia or over America. And if that happens, then, of course, it's not so bad news. But we're going to have to wait and see where that's going. But definitely the GFS ensembles are shifting increasingly towards quite a negative Arctic oscillation in the second half of April. So it's not really surprised that that's happening. If you have a look at 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts, we've got the E70F here on the top, and the GFS, which we'll have a look at in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet, is an area in the atmosphere, high pressure, low pressure, being moved around by the jet stream. Red extrapolates high pressure, blue to low pressure. And it's not a surprise that the Arctic oscillation is trending increasingly negative over the next sort of 10 days or so, because we've got all of this red appearing up here, which is blocking, and it's, of course, it's the blocking that's shifting the index. It's not the other way around. It's not the index that's driving the weather, it's the weather that's driving the index. So because we've got all of this orange up here and red up there, that's the reason the Arctic oscillation is trending increasingly negative within the GFS ensembles. Now, for us, we are actually keeping this ridge very close and just out to our west. Notice this trough that's across many parts of Europe. So the jet stream is doing something a bit like that. There is quite a deep trough within the 500 millibar flow, extending through many central eastern parts of Europe. So it's going to be a pretty cool, maybe even quite cold at times, and unsettled week to 10 days ahead for much of Europe. The British Isles, the far west of Europe, we're staying close to this ridge, so just on the periphery of those colder northerly winds, but it is a very close run thing. It's not going to be a heat wave. High pressure centred out to the west of us. It's going to be generally on the coolest side. GFS is very similar. Again, we've got all of this orange and red up here, so that's the reason the GFS ensembles are going increasingly negative with the Arctic oscillation over the next couple of weeks, because high pressure is building over the pole. For us, where we've got this ridge centred more or less over and ever so slightly to our west, which leaves, I have to change the colour, leaves this deep trough here across much of Europe, with the jet stream doing something like that. So again, many parts of Europe looking quite cold and unsettled, with a trough within the 500 millibar flow. On the edge of Europe, on the Atlantic side, generally we're just holding on to that ridge of high pressure. But if that high pressure goes any further to the northwest, so let's say we sent about high pressure somewhere around there or there, then of course that's going to pull this trough back into the west of Europe, and we'll do something like that with the jet stream. The trough will pull back into west of Europe, and we will find ourselves in a cold and unsettled pattern. So have a look at the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles the next couple of weeks. You can see temperatures are going to be generally on the coolest side. So the red line here is the 30-year temperature average. And we're going to be cooler than average. In fact, going quite cold for a time early next week. So around, say, Easter Monday through to Wednesday, it looks like we're going to pull down some quite cold air then. After that, we actually get a little bit of a recovery in the temperatures, but we're only going back up to average. As I've been saying in the videos recently, there's no sign that we're going back to that very warm slash hot weather that we had through the early part of April, and particularly last weekend where we saw temperatures up to 25 Celsius. There's no sign of a return to that, certainly in the next week to 10 days, probably in the next couple of weeks. At the very end of the GFS ensembles, there are a few really warm outliers appearing. Those would bring hot weather back, but they're right at the very extended range of the GFS ensembles. I don't think they're to be taken seriously, and equally there are still several members who are looking quite cool at that point as well, so it's best to leave that alone and just say that there's no sign in the foreseeable future of a return to very warm temperatures. In terms of precipitation, still no real sign of anything definitive with the rainfall. We've got a few little spikes appearing here. Those are showery bursts coming through within those cold or cool sort of winds that we've got coming from the northwest. Will be some showers coming through at times, but certainly nothing definitively wet, nothing that's going to end the prolonged dry spell that we've had across many parts of the country and start to make up the rainfall deficit that we've been seeing. No sign of a particularly wet spell coming up. This looks quite dramatic. This is a temperature anomaly for the next week, and it's looking pretty cold for many parts of Europe. It's going from the 13th through to the 21st of April. It's been a long time since we've seen such extensive below average temperature anomalies across Europe. So it's only really Spain and Portugal that's coming out with above average temperature anomalies. Even Ireland and the UK a little bit cooler than average, but the real core of these cool temperatures actually for Central, Eastern and Northern Europe, particularly over Scandinavia. They had a very mild winter across Scandinavia, but things have turned around a lot right now, and it is significantly very significantly cooler than average, colder than average temperature anomalies. Some parts of northern Scandinavia look like they're going down to around 8 to 10 degrees below average. So, and that's because there's the trough. We showed you it on the height anomaly flow chart. There's this cold trough within the 500 millibar flow across northern and eastern parts of Europe. So a pretty cool week, or even cold week coming up for many parts of Europe. Just Spain and Portugal, if you're off there for Easter, not going to be too bad. And the British Isles and Ireland just on the edges of those cold temperatures. Precipitation remains very significantly drier than average for the west of Europe, particularly the UK, Ireland and France as well. Notice many central and eastern parts of Europe and northeastern Europe actually coming out with above average precipitation. Again, that's all indicative of this trough being within the 500 millibar flow. So not only will it be quite cold, it'll also be pretty unsettled for many central parts of Europe as well. So this is how the GFS is looking for Sunday, Easter Sunday. And by the way, we'll do our final, 7th and final Easter update tonight, having one last detailed look at the full Easter period. So this is how things are looking for Easter Sunday. Very close to a ridge across the west of Europe, although there is a bit of a showery trough coming through. Might bring some showery rain to the northern part of the country on Easter Sunday. But the real trough is centred, you'll notice, across Scandinavia and then down into Central Europe. And that's the trough within the 500 millibar flow. So that's the reason it's quite cold and unsettled for many central and eastern northern parts of Europe in the next few days. Easter Monday looks like this. High pressure is out to our northwest. We're bringing the winds in from the north or northeast. So it looks quite chilly, probably with showers in the north, mostly dry in the south. Head down towards the south coast or Devon, Cornwall. That's probably where the best of the weather will be on Easter Monday. But we'll talk more about that with the Easter update tonight around 7 o'clock. Into next week, then it takes us to Tuesday. Everybody's back to work. High pressure out to the northwest. Winds are coming in from the northeast. That looks quite cool. And then we go through next week, and the GFS, while is extending or strengthening this ridge again across the west of Europe. So it looks mostly dry again through the course of next week, as we already saw on the ensembles. We might bring a few shower bands through next week, but a lot of dry weather coming up. The unsettled conditions in the north and the east of Europe. This takes us up to day 10, where again we're keeping high pressure centering more or less over the UK, so lots of quiet weather. Again, we've got troughiness in the north and east of Europe. The jet stream again doing something like that. So we've still got that trough within the 500 millibar flow across many central northeast parts of Europe, which will keep it quite cold and unsettled. ECWF finally very similar for Easter Monday. We've got this ridge out to west, bringing down these chilly, possibly a little bit showery northerly winds. Into the early part of next week, this high pressure looks like it's strengthening across the country, so it's on the western edge of this high pressure. We've got those cold northerly winds, and that's really for many central, northern, eastern parts of Europe once again. We run into the second half of next week, and then on into weekend of 22nd, 23rd of April, going up to day 10, which is 23rd of April, keeping high pressure close to the country, but it looks like we're beginning to pull this high pressure back up towards Greenland, which means this trough just here might push southwards and eastwards. If that happens, it could open the door to a late shot of northerly winds there through the final week of April, which would be very similar to what happened in the last week of April last year, when we had some unusually cold weather, hard overnight frost at the end of April last year, and even a little bit of snow in places as well. Hopefully, we won't get a repeat this year, but we aren't all that far away from it. That's really the message, I think, from today's video. It looks like the coolest or coldest of the weather, most unsettled conditions, will be in the central and northern part of Europe. We're on the edges of that. We'll be a little bit on the cooler side, certainly in comparison to what we've had through the spring so far. And if things just back a little bit further westwards, then that will place us into the centre of this cold trough within the 500 millibar flow, and then we'll be looking at quite a cold end to April, potentially. Hopefully not, but we'll keep an eye on it. Right, that's all for now. A bit of an extended one today, because I wanted to just bring you up to date with everything that's going on. It's quite an interesting period at the moment, so I thought throw a little bit more at it today. Later on, we'll have the 7th and final update for Easter, the whole of the Easter weekend. And don't forget to enter the competition. If you want to win that moon phase clock, email your name and address to gazoffice@gmail.com. You're going to a prize draw, and good luck. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.